a major source of food for all Nova Scotians. Next, the Bay of Fundy at low tide. This long trail of red, muddy shoreline has become an iconic image of this coast. Drawing visitors from around the world. At Burncoat Head, a replica lighthouse looks out to the Minas Basin. Constructed in the 1990s, it replaces the original, which stood for nearly a century, eventually lost to tidal erosion, here among the highest tides in the world. Finally, 7 kilometers offshore, and more than 100 kilometers from its point of origin in Digby Neck, the other extremity of Nova Scotia's North Mountain chain comes into view. This is Cape Split. A mountain of ancient lava flows rising majestically from the sea. Historians believe the word Fundy comes from the French fonder, to split. Here on the bay, it's a perfect description. With cliffs more than 200 feet tall, old forest, rare plant species, and some of the best hiking trails in the region. Cape Split has become a pilgrimage for many Nova Scotians. Cape Split divides the waters of the Bay of Fundy from the Minas Basin, creating vicious tidal currents that surround this wandering trajectory of land. From Digby Neck to Cape Split, the North Mountain chain is one of the East Coast's most impressive coastal ranges. With the province of New Brunswick sitting on the horizon. This is Nova Scotia's northern shore. Remote, and some say forgotten, this stretch of coastline holds some of Fundy's most remarkable landscapes. This is Cape Dore, a landmark set of sea cliffs along the Bay of Fundy coast. Like Cape Split, Cape Dore divides the main branch of the Bay of Fundy from the Minas Basin. Surrounding currents are treacherous, making the iconic lighthouse here more than just a tourist attraction. Since 1875, a whistle has warned approaching vessels of navigational hazards. A light was added in 1922. With cliffs hundreds of feet above sea level, Cape Dore is one of the most popular hiking trails in the region for those not afraid of heights. Heading east, the shoreline continues to the town of Parsboro. Once a shipbuilding hub during the age of sail, today the town relies on tourism for survival. Further offshore, a rare opportunity to explore exposed seafloor. For 12 hours a day, The surface of the Bay of Fundy is seemingly of another world. Millions of years ago, this was the center of the supercontinent known as Pangaea. As Pangaea separated, rift valleys were formed, creating oceans and bays, like here at Fundy. In more recent history, mastodon and caribou herds roamed these lands during the last ice age. As glaciers melted some 10,000 years ago, ocean levels rose and the world's highest tides were born. With tides as high as 17 meters, water rushing in and out of the bay creates a powerful force. Some believe this power will be our future.
The Bay of Fundy itself has 160 billion tons of water flowing every tide. That's 4 times more than the combined flow of all the freshwater rivers in the world. All that water comes up through the Minas Passage and pinches, just like, you know, holding your thumb on a garden hose, pinches through the Minas Passage and speeds up to 5 or over 5 meters a second. And because of that water speed, you get a tremendous amount of power. And that's why we're here. The Bay of Fundy has up to 60,000 megawatts of power, and in the Minas Passage, 8,000 megawatts of power. And by comparison, the most amount of energy we use in Nova Scotia is just a little over 2,000 megawatts. So in the Minas Passage alone, you're looking at about 4 times the total electrical demand of the whole province.
Matt Lumley believes if we can harness even a fraction of that force, Nova Scotia will be a world leader in renewable energy.
The kind of technology that we're looking at now that's sort of really recently emerging is called in-stream tidal. In-stream tidal is a little bit like an underwater windmill where the turbine is placed directly in the flow of the current to capture the energy. Last year, we played host to North America's first commercial scale tidal turbine. That went in 2009, was removed December of 2010. Next year, you're going to see 4 different technologies deployed at the fourth site. What we're looking at in terms of in-stream technology, most recent models suggest we have about 2,500 megawatts, so roughly the entire demand of the province. Another way of looking at that is 2,500 megawatts is about equivalent to the power for 1 million homes.
It's incredible hope for the future. And it's not just fantasy. Miles away, it's already happening on a smaller scale. Here, the Annapolis Tidal Power Station operates silently, channeling the ebb and flow of the world's highest tides into electric power.
At high tide, the Bay of Fundy looks like any other body of water in the world. Interesting coastline, a bit of an erosion problem here and there, but what really sets the Bay of Fundy apart is low tide. At low tide, depending upon where you are, you will either see vertical elevations of 30 to 40 feet, 55 feet in some places, or you will see acres of mudflats in the upper part of the bay. When this was built, there were only 2 other tidal power plants in the world, both in Europe. One in France at Laurens that was built in 1964, and one in northern Russia at a place called Kislyak-Guba, built in 1974. Since this plant has been built, there's been only one other constructed, and that's on the west coast of Korea. At the Annapolis Causeway, we let the water in for free, and we make it work to get back out through our turbine.
Six meters below ground, a massive turbine system transforms tidal forces into power.
Since 1984, what we've done here is we've allowed the tide to come into the head pond of the Annapolis River, raising the water level in the Annapolis River by approximately ½ a meter. And then as the tide recedes on the ocean side, we will just wait until the tide drops approximately 2 meters below the head pond level. At that point, the computer over here, which controls the plant, will sense the pressure difference. It will open the gates down here using a hydraulic motor. When we first start generating with about a 2-meter or 6-foot head, we're producing only about 1 megawatt of power. That's enough for, say, Annapolis Royal and Granville Ferry. However, as the tide continues to drop on that side, the head pond level stays about the same. With the ocean dropping away, that increases our head, which increases the potential energy of the water going through the tunnel, which increases our power output. So by the time we've reached low tide, we can be making as much as 20,000 kilowatts of energy, or 20 megawatts, enough for about 4,500 homes.
With more than 500 kilometers of spectacular shoreline, spanning 2 countries and 2 Canadian provinces, the Bay of Fundy is one of the world's maritime wonders. Now, along Nova Scotia's northern shore, hidden gems are revealed along this remote stretch of coast. Five islands. From a distance, it is ethereal. Literally 5 islands in a near straight line leading to shore. It is a geological wonder with an incredible history in both science and legend. The island names, Moose, Diamond, Long, Egg, and Pinnacle, come from the Mi'kmaq deity Glooskap and the mountains of sod he launched at his archenemy, the beaver, for mocking his powers. Science tells an equally fascinating tale. During the Ice Age, the village of 5 Islands was a delta, surrounded by mighty rivers and streams, flowing from an incredible glacier in the hills nearby. For thousands of years, the weight of the glacier forced the land down, and the region was underwater. As the Ice Age ended and the glacier melted, the land rose again, some 15 meters, leaving behind this set of geological wonders. Today, 5 Islands stands as a shrine of nature, immortalizing a turbulent geological past set against the highest tides in the world that continue to shape these coastlines. Across the bay, the fertile farmland of the Annapolis Valley stretches for miles far below. Nearby, the town of Wolfville. It was established in the early 19th century as a shipbuilding hub and an exporter of its world-famous apples from nearby orchards. Today, the town is home to Acadia University, one of Canada's most prominent schools. Named after the region's first French settlers from the 17th century. And it was in nearby Grand Pré that the story of the Acadians would be brought to the world. On September 5th, 1755, British forces gathered residents inside the local church and read a proclamation announcing the expulsion of the Acadians from their homeland. Now, more than 250 years later, their descendants return to mark this anniversary.
It's not really as sorrowful and sad. We don't see any English soldiers here, or I should say New England soldiers, rounding up the Acadians. But actually on September the 5th in 1755 was the day that the Acadian men from the area were called to a meeting in the church of Saint-Charles-les-Mines. And that's where Lieutenant Colonel Winslow read to them the order of deportation that told them they would be deported from this land, that their goods were being confiscated, and they were prisoners. We've invited 418 people to come and be part of this activity. It's a way of learning, sort of an educational activity as well as historical. We've given them the names of the men and the villages that they came from on a little tag, and they're going to wear that so they can be that person for that time.
255 ans que les hommes et les garçons de la grande région de Grand Pré étaient faits prisonniers par les Britanniques dans l'église Saint-Charles-des-Mines. C'est à ce moment qu'ils ont appris que leurs terres et leurs biens étaient confisqués et qu'ils allaient être déportés.
With the proclamation read, the ceremony continues as the reenactors march to the coastline and the site where the Acadians would finally be expelled.
Like most Acadians, I have a connection to Grand Pré, and sometimes it's not obvious, but part of this reenactment is a walk, and a walk of commemoration where there will be people giving basically life stories of some of the people who lived here, and it's special for me because I get to be Anne LeBlanc, and she's my great-great-great-great-grandmother who really was deported from this area.
An iron cross marks the end of this somber journey, a unique commemoration of this historic event. For archaeologist Jonathan Fowler, today's reenactment holds another purpose, using the footprint created by today's gathering he will continue his search for the ruins of the original St. Charles de Mines Church.
We do know that this is part of the old Acadian landscape or village that was here. In fact, there were probably several small villages along Wolfville Ridge here right behind you. Toward the center of this cluster of settlements was a church and a priest's house and the cemetery. We know this from historical records and some not very high-quality maps. So we know there was a church here. We know it was here. It was constructed in the 1680s. We know it was here in 1755 when the deportation took place here. We know that the men and boys of the various communities here were held in that church. But nobody can put their hands on the ruins of that building. And actually that's very important because this site is here to commemorate that experience. And wouldn't it be that much more powerful an experience for visitors if we could actually put our hands on that place? So what we did today was we invited 418 members of the public, each representing one of the people we know who came to the church in 1755 to be taken prisoner. And by putting the people together, we have a sense of how big a building that must have been, at least as big as the group of people we saw here today. And so, that's just a new piece of evidence that we can use.
Now heading southeast beyond Wolfville and Grand Pré, the inner waterways of the Bay of Fundy lie far below. Here, geological formations continue to appear out of nowhere. They are the trademark of this coastline, known throughout the world. The Bay of Fundy marks the beginnings of European culture in North America and is at the heart of our geological world. With its rushing waters and powerful tides, it is also the future, here on the edge of Canada.
Neste zoológico, tão especiais quanto os animais, são os veterinários.
I don't hand inject them. Try and inject this guy and you'll probably take a good swipe at you.
Especiais e corajosos.
This can take anything from a sort of 5.
He's starting to move.
Okay, just sit. Yeah, don't worry. How are you feeling, Jackie?
And the lion's dead.
Tanto que conseguiram um depoimento exclusivo para o Mais Globosat.